Welcome to Metro30, the Metro Monthly's weekly conversation with the community.
Welcome to Metro30. I'm your host, Mark Peyko. Today we have Keith Mason in the studio. Keith is a retired championship rugby player, motivational speaker, and actor. He is currently working on the launch of Rugby Blood, a graphic novel that tells the story of his early struggles. Keith joins us today to talk about this project, his life after professional sports, and the importance of pushing forward. Welcome to the show, Keith.
Oh, thanks for having me, Mark. Such a pleasure speaking to my American friends over the water. I'm looking forward to it.
You retired from active play in 2013, but your life has taken some interesting turns since then. For one, you've developed an acting career. How did this come about?
Well, obviously, when you retire from any sport, if you're not focused on the next chapter, many sportsmen go off the wayside and, they struggle. I did go for my struggles. From a very early age of 6 years of age up to 31 years of age, I played rugby, and I played professional rugby at the top level for 14 years. So what I did is I went through quite a difficult patch, rededicating myself, because I think it's really important to rededicate yourself. Got myself back in the gym, got myself cleaned up, and threw myself into my acting career. And through that process, I was learning different talents: screenwriting, comic book writing. The idea of Rugby Blood came around about 2 years ago. I wrote a screenplay with a Norwegian writer called Preben Johannes called Rugby Blood. I sent the screenplay down to Pinewood Studios, and Pinewood invited me down there. You've got the 007 movies being made at Pinewood, James Bond, and you've got the Star Wars movies. So it's quite surreal to after my very first screenplay, to be asked to come down to Pinewood and meet the film producers. So, they said they liked the look of me, and they wanted me to rewrite the script, and they were looking at making a film for between 5 and 10 million. So I went away and I worked backwards. I did a bit of research regarding the comic. I thought to myself, why not do a comic as like an Origins, a bit like X-Men, where Wolverine, you've seen the film Wolverine, it shows you Wolverine as a young boy. And what I did is I actually made the young boy in the comic myself. Me having a pretty wild childhood, being in trouble with the law, taking a lot of time to find my way and ultimately get out of that situation, being in trouble with the police and going to court from time and time again, living with a single mum. She did love me dearly, but, when I'm out in the open, you're around guys who are not very good for you, and you get peer pressure. And I got myself in a lot of sticky patches, and ultimately, I got out there and had a successful rugby league career. So everything I've put into Rugby Blood is all the experiences, all the sacrifices I made, and just my journey back into the comic, which I think will enable kids to look at and realize that, if you want something, it's not easy. It's going to be a struggle. It's going to be really tough. But if you're willing to sacrifice, then you will achieve no matter what. And my story is testimony to that, and going on to launch the franchise with Betfred Super League, or Super League Europe, who's the actual organization, the top league in Europe, Rugby League, Super League. Buying into my vision with Rob Elston, who came from Everton Football Club, is now the CEO of Super League, saw my vision and saw where we could take this and how I could help market and promote Super League on all 7 continents of the world through my comic and through the Netflix series and ultimately the film. The deal will be signed in the next day or two. I've just been offered to be a face of a brand for Kilo Gear, which is in America. They're going to sponsor the comic, and I'm just about to launch my own CBD company, Keith Mason, CBD, cannabis oil, and it's all legal. Keith Mason Recovery Line. Just signed it with an agency, Paradigm Agency, and they're trying to get me out there as the next action star coming out of Britain. So it's exciting times.
How did you go from a sports career to acting? That's not a transition a lot of people can make. How'd that happen?
Obviously, getting the opportunity with Mickey Rourke. Mickey Rourke, I met in 2009 after playing in the final, the Challenge Cup final at Wembley, the famous Wembley Stadium. And we got invited out to a bar in London, and I met Mickey Rourke, and it was the year of his comeback. And I saw him walk past me, and I wanted to introduce myself to him, which I did. He turned around and asked me if I was an athlete, was I a gangster, because we all have the same suits on. All the rugby players have these cup final suits on, a grey suit with black shirt. And I said, no, Mickey, I play rugby. And
I played in a big final in front of 90,000 fans today. And he turned around and goes, I watched that game, man. I watched it. He said he watched it in his hotel room, and he said he was a big fan of rugby. So I cut a long story short. He gave me his details. We became friends from that night on, and he invited me down to the GQ Awards in London, where he won the Man of the Year. Jason Statham awarded him the honour, and me and Jason Statham and Mickey Rourke was together all night as a awesome threesome. And Mickey from there invited me over to America, to Beverly Hills, to stay with him, and over to New York. And I'll be forever grateful. Mickey gave me my opportunity in films. He gave me a call back in 2013 and asked me if I would screen test and be in a film and play his henchman in the film called Skin Traffic, which had Eric Roberts and Daryl Hannah, Michael Madsen, Mickey Rourke, who played my boss. And that's how my career started. I just wanted to go back to how creative Rugby Blood came about. Mickey gave me an opportunity, what's probably, 10 million to 1. I'd never done acting before, and he put me in a film. Not only just be in a film, but have lines in a film. It just gave me another vision, another focus, after rugby.
You have an interesting background. You've talked. I've listened to other interviews with you, and you've talked about the challenges of growing up and everything. For people that aren't aware of what your background is, can you talk about that?
Well, I was one child of 5. My mum was a single parent, and from day one when I was born, I came out with a black eye. So, my future was predestined for me that I was going to be, quite physical. And growing up in a neighbourhood was quite run down. It was the heroin epidemic of the whole of UK. It was one of the worst areas in Dewsbury Moor. And me being such a vibrant and energetic kid, my mum nurtured me. She put me into rugby. She believed in me. My dad wasn't about. He left before I was born. And I had a pretty wild start to my life. I was always playing rugby, but never really focused and disciplined. Because when I stepped outside the door, there was stuff out there what kids shouldn't be seeing, and I was seeing a lot of that. I was at one stage in my life, I'd be in a house and I'd be sat in between a smackhead and a crackhead. But I wasn't a bad kid. I was just surrounded by lots of kids without any fathers, and I believe that kids should have mentors in their life, and especially men, because I always looked up to men. I didn't see much of my old man, my dad, but I was always looking for that father figure. And what happened is from probably from 11 to 14 years of age, I appeared at court around 45 times. So I was arrested probably 50, 60 times in a period of 4 to 5 years. A lot of it was petty stuff. But, when you're a young kid full of beans, full of energy, and you're out and you're hanging around with gangs, you do get into a lot of trouble. And, it was really tough for me. And my mum, it was tough for my mum as well, because she had to fight tooth and nail. I got kicked out of nearly every school I went to. Maybe I was just looking for attention, but for me to get out of that situation, and just to turn my life around. I mean, the last time I went to court was when I was 14 years of age. And the guy who I did most of the trouble with, he went to court with me, and he got sent to jail. And this was for a robbery. He robbed a house, and he gave me a call and asked him to help him. I'm a young kid, man. I'm 13 years of age. So, I don't think logically, and I just got roped into things, and we got caught, and we went to court, Bradford Crown Court, and the kid got 2 years in jail, and I got a 2-year probation. And from that very same day when I walked out of that court, it just felt like a spiritual awakening that I was desperate to get out of the situation I was in. I thought to myself, listen, you've got to book your ideas up now, and you've got one last shot, and I stopped everything. From that day on, I walked out of that court and I said to myself, I want to be a rugby league player. And I don't know what came over me. I don't know. I know it sounds really profound, but, from a 14-year-old kid to all of a sudden just rid of every negative thing in his life just in one day, make a decision to turn his life around. And I think that has enabled me to go on and have a successful career, being able for me to deal with hardships and push through hard times. And you see a lot of the stuff on the outside. This guy's doing great. He takes care of his missus. He's had a long career. He's won titles. He's had a fruitful career. Now he's going into acting, and he's an entrepreneur and businessman. But really, all that's come from that 14-year-old kid. Wanting to turn his life around and get out of that situation. I cut all my friends off, and I started running from the very next day. Started getting up in the morning, 6, 7 a.m. Started doing the miles, and I just had this ultimate belief that I could make it, that I could be somebody, and be a star. And I had this vision, and it never left me. And all my friends who I used to hang around with, like, Keith, man, what you doing? Come on, chill with us, And I just said, listen, don't worry about me, guys. Just leave me alone. I could see where my life was going. I could see people around me were dropping dead from drugs. I saw probably too much than what a young kid should see. So, I kind of grew up real quick. But, I just always go back to that 15, 14-year-old kid. If I've ever got a problem, or if I'm struggling, or, if I'm lacking a bit of self-belief, I just look and just look how far I've come. No one was pushing me. It was just solely on myself that I wanted to be somebody. And obviously my mum, had to believe in me and put a roof over my head. But even she didn't know that I'd go as far as I did. And ultimately, by the time I was 19, I was the youngest ever player to go to the NRL, which is the best competition in the world, in Australia, and jumping a Qantas flight. And I remember jumping on that flight and sitting back and just closing my eyes and thinking, wow, I had a flashback of being ready to go to jail just 4 years before that.
What year was that when you were 14 years old?
Yeah, that would have been about 1996, I think.
Okay.
And that following year, I went back to my old club, Dewsbury Moor. We had a great, outstanding season. I had a standout season. I got selected for my county, which is Yorkshire. Then I got selected for the England schoolboys the same year. We travelled with the best 25 players in the country to France, which we beat France 54-2. And then I came back and ultimately I signed a professional contract with Wakefield. But before I actually signed with a Premier team, so if you put it in these terms, the English Super League is equivalent to the NFL. So you go from playing junior football, and then you go into the big leagues. And I was looking to sign a Super League team. So when I came back, I was the only player and one other player who hadn't signed a full-time contract with a Super League team. So I decided I'd go to Bradford Bulls. I trialled there for a little while. The coach turned around and said to me, we're not going to sign you on a full-time contract, but we will offer you £50 a week just to keep coming. And obviously I was disheartened. That was my first knockback. Then I thought I'd give it another go. I went to another Super League club to play in their academy. I went to Castleford, and the coach said the same thing. They wasn't going to sign me. So I'm thinking to myself, wow, I've come this far. I've worked so hard. I mean, when I was a kid, when I turned my life around, I used to actually train on Christmas Day. I'd go into the cemetery and I'd do hills and sprints for maybe 2 hours. And the reason why I did it on Christmas Day, because I knew there's a big chance that nobody else is doing it. And that gave me a mental edge. It gave me that. And I've always, wanted to do things that nobody else has done. I like to go against the grain. And I know to make it in life, if you want to be something, you have to make sacrifices. And I think that resilience from a young boy got me through all the knockbacks from the Super League teams.
Did the resilience lead to the idea that you needed to keep pushing forward, or where did that discipline come from? How was that instilled in you?
Yeah, that's such an interesting question. Do you know? I don't really know. I just knew when I was a kid, I could play rugby, and I had this drive in me, but it was never full on. I'd go out and I'd get into a lot of trouble, and I'll put all my energy into negative stuff, into stuff that wasn't productive. And I think me seeing so much as a young kid, and having to change through desperation, because I believe in life you change through either two things, and that's through pain or desperation. And I was desperate to get out of the situation I was in. I could see where my life was going, and it just gave me this hunger inside of me, man. And I believe that it's either you're born with it or you nurture it through your circumstances as you're growing up. And I think I had a bit of both. And I think, like you said, the discipline and the resilience I built over time because I trained so hard as a 15, 16-year-old kid. So when these knockbacks kept on coming, any young kid who was 16 and 17 would have quit. They would have thought, well, they're not good enough. This is not for them. But I looked at it as, what else am I going to do? I can't work. I can't use my hands. I'm not very good. I'm not a very good handyman. And I did hang in there, and I went to Leeds Rhinos. Leeds Rhinos is a big club. They've won many, many trophies. Dean Bell was the coach there, and I went there, and I trialled there for about 3 or 4 months. I had a great pre-season, off-season. I thought I was doing really well. I used to catch 3 or 4 buses 3 or 4 times a week. So I'd get on a bus to Dewsbury, another bus to Leeds, and Leeds to Headingley. I'd be catching like 25 buses a week just to go and get an opportunity. All these kids at this club was all signed. And I was there for around 4 months. I was 17 now. And I remember the coach, Dean Bell, he was the captain of New Zealand and Wigan Warriors, 2 big teams. Obviously, New Zealand is a country. He was a very well-known rugby league player, now a coach. And he just said to me one day, come here, Keith, I want to have a chat with you. I says, yeah, no problem, Dean. And he just turned around and he goes, look, Keith, we're not going to sign you. Your trial's over. And I don't think you'll ever play Super League. I just don't think you're a Super League player. Now,
how did you overcome that?
Oh, well, listen, man, how would you, knowing where you come from, knowing how hard you've worked, and then 3 clubs now, I said to me, I'm not good enough. Now I'm thinking, is this not my time yet? I just couldn't believe it. Obviously, I was gutted. I was disappointed. And him even saying that I'll never play Super League. So I went away. I was disheartened. I was going to leave the game. I was going to walk away. I was going to quit. I don't know what I was going to do, but I just couldn't handle the rejection after rejection after rejection after all the hard work. Why these kids and not me? I don't think it was a talent thing. And now I believe, God put these obstacles in front of me to see how bad I wanted it. And a guy came to come and tell me, he said, listen, Keith, just give it one more shot. I was going to quit. Just give it one more shot. And I did. I hung in there. I signed for Wakefield for around £5,000 for the year, full-time contract. John Harbin was the coach. John Harbin was a very influential coach of mine. And I signed for Wakefield the same season. It was halfway through the season, the regular season now. I signed for Wakefield, and Wakefield haven't won a game all year. There wasn't a very good big club. There wasn't a very good team. And my first game, I got the man of the match. I did some ridiculous amount of tackles, like 40 tackles and 27 hit-ups, carries, whatever you want to call them. And we won the game. So it was the first win in 11 games. And we actually went on to win the next 11 games. And I never looked back, Mark. When all the knockbacks really kind of propelled me to greatness, because when I signed for Wakefield, I was like a man possessed. I just wanted to win every training session. I looked after my body, and I just had this fire inside of me.
Why did he sign you?
John Harbin. Well, it was actually a scout. A scout had seen me, and obviously me being knocked back by these 3 clubs, wasn't my time. But, it wasn't the fact that I didn't have talent, that I couldn't play. I can't explain it. But I thank God that Dean Bell and the rest of them said I wasn't good enough, because it instilled something in me, what even up to this day resides inside of me, that anything is possible. And I don't do no's. I knock on the door and I go through it. If I set a goal, I go after it and I get it. And I do it through relentless hard work, by reaching out to people, doing the research, and just being honest. Honest, hard work, and being honest with myself, because at the end of the day, I've got one shot at this life. I want the best out of this life. And up to this day, Dean Bell, him saying that to me is my favourite failure, because it did propel me to do great things. And anybody out there who keeps getting knocked back, or and you're pursuing something that you love, you just got to keep going, man, because look, life is not a sprint, it's a marathon. It takes time to do something that's great. And honestly, your story will be a testimony that it wasn't easy for you, but you kept on persevering. And in that process of persevering, you become a better man. You become a stronger willed man. You have a better body, a better mindset. And I truly believe that. If you want to be great, there's going to be obstacles. But when each obstacle is like a lesson, is like a test. And when you pass that test, you become a better human being. And Dean Bell said I would never play Super League. At the end of that year, I actually made my Super League debut. I was 17 years old, and that's super, super young. It's very unheard of. And I did make my Super League debut for Wakefield against Castleford. And the following year, when I was 18, we went on to get to the final with Wakefield, and I won the Player of the Year, the Man of Steel Award, and the Player of the Year. And we played Leeds, and we played Dean Bell's team. And I had a man of the match performance against Leeds, and we beat them. And Dean Bell, the same guy who said that I would never play Super League, he came over onto the pitch, and he shook my hand, and he said, "You proved me wrong."
So where did your career go after this point? Like how did it progress? Like, people always cite, like, in their early careers, like the most exciting thing that ever happened to them in their career. Was that early, or did that come later?
Yeah, no, that I was 18, so it was only like a year later that Dean Bell came to me and said to him that I proved him wrong, which I've done many, many times. When I was a kid growing up, nobody ever thought that I'd go and play international football and win finals, and especially go play in America, in Australia, and star in movies. If you think about it, there must have been something going on, whether I was touched by God or whatever. But to be given that strength and that determination to get out of that situation as a young man, I am super grateful. But it's the only way you can make it in life is by just having that blind faith in your ability to succeed. The following year, I played a full season in the first team. Now I'm playing in the big leagues. I got the young rising star. I had a standout season. I got a call by Wales to play for Wales. I had a bit of Welsh heritage in me, and I didn't even train. I went down to Wrexham. Wales were playing England. It was a full test match, and we played against the England team. And our team, we only had 2 Super League players. The rest of the players were from divisions lower, and we was beating England 26-10 at half time. Ultimately, they went on to win us. I think it was 38-32, but it was a man of the match performance for myself. And from that game, the best team in the world, the premiers of the NRL in Australia, Melbourne Storm, watched the game and saw me play, and that's how it became me signing for Melbourne Storm. They saw a young front rower. It was unheard of that any Australian teams were signing English players. There was only one other player called Adrian Morley, but I was 19. I was a baby, and they came over. They flew over. They paid a big fee to Wakefield to get me out of there. Then, ironically, Leeds Rhinos, the team that said I'd never play Super League, the first team came back in and offered me a 4-year deal. How ironic is that? So they came back in. I said no to them. And ultimately, I signed for Melbourne. I actually played for England. I got selected for England, and we toured South Africa that following year. And then I signed for Melbourne Storm, which made me the youngest ever player to go to Australia. And that was one of my highlights of my life. It really was.
Now, tell us about the championship games, though. When did those come about, and what was the highlight of that? One of those games. So
I played in Melbourne for 2 years. Had a great time there. I developed my skills. I became a better man living out there, and made some friends for life, and came back to England a much better player. I signed for St Helens. There was a few clubs who want to sign me, and I signed for St Helens, which is in Merseyside near Liverpool. And there was like the Premier team. They had a super team. A lot of players who I looked up to: Kieran Cunningham, Paul Sculthorpe, Sean Long, Paul Wellens, Chris Joint, just some great players. And I just came back and made my debut against Wigan, which was the derby rivals. And I never played in a game like it before. I think there was like 25,000 people there, but it sounded like there was 100,000. You see, the rugby fans, they're so loyal and passionate. And unfortunately, we lost to Wigan. But my period at St Helens was around 3 seasons there. And the second season, we played in the Challenge Cup. What it is, you play a Super League season, you have 27 games, regular season, and then you go into playoff games. And then whoever gets the best out of all the playoffs, go to Old Trafford at Manchester and play in the grand final. But through the season, you have like a round robin, like a cup competition called the Challenge Cup. And the Challenge Cup is probably the oldest prestigious cup on the planet. Mm-hmm. It's been going since 1895. It's a beautiful trophy. And what happens is teams get put in round robins, a bit like playoffs. You don't know who you're going to play next, and obviously every game gets tougher and tougher and tougher. And you start off in the fifth round. And what happened with our run? Sometimes some teams get easy games. So they could play a team in Division 2 or Division 3, depending who they get drawn with. But we drew the 5 top teams in Super League in our league, one after the other. So we had to play Bradford Bulls, they were favourites. We beat them. Then we played Hull. We beat them. Then we played Leeds Rhinos. We beat them. Then we went to the semi-final. We played Huddersfield Giants. We put 40 past them. And this was my first Challenge Cup final. We played Wigan in the final at Cardiff at the Prince of Balliol Stadium. It used to be called the Millennium Stadium. And we went down to Cardiff on the Wednesday. And just to build up to the game was amazing, just fantastic. It just memories that I'll never forget. And we went on to beat Wigan in front of 90,000 fans, and that was quite special. My mum was up in the crowd, and I'd been watching these games as a kid, as a young boy, and just dreaming about playing in the Challenge Cup final. But to win one was surreal, and I just knew I was 21, 22 years old, really young. I had a good game, just missing out on the Landstad Trophy, and when I picked that trophy up, it's like my life flashed before my eyes, and I felt like I'd made it. I'd arrived, and I knew my mum was up in the crowd, and she was crying her eyes out. And knowing, what me and my mum have been through, to lifting a trophy up in front of 90,000 screaming fans is quite incredible, and I'll be forever grateful. But I did work my ass off to get to that spot, and that was probably the highlight of my career.
Okay, that's an amazing story. Now, what do you think? How would you describe it? What would characterize you? How would you characterize yourself as a player? What was it about your athleticism or your skill that really you think made you stand out?
Yeah, well, I think I was blessed with work ethic. I had, for a big guy, when I played, I was around 230 pounds. That's US terms, 105, 6 kilo. I had great leg speed for a big guy. I got the best training in Australia as a young kid, training in 45 degrees heat in the preseason, and I could push myself harder than everybody else, and I was very aggressive. I was very mobile for a big guy, very athletic, and I was a competitor. People knew me. If you ask people about me, they will probably say that I was an enforcer. A guy who liked to get stuck in and not take a backward step, and didn't fear nobody. And that's what I was. I just really wore my heart on my sleeve and give it my all. And because it's like, if you look back 5 years before, I was ready to go to jail, and now I'm playing in the best competition in the world. The least I can do is give my best. And people do remember me as a competitor, a very tough player, and a leader. I was a leader of my teammates. I didn't like bullies. I stuck up for my teammates, and I was a team player. Tackled hard, run hard.
I remember you talking about when you were younger, and I'm talking about your formative years, and bullies at school and bullies in the neighborhood, and how you handled them. I thought that was kind of interesting. Could you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So when I was a kid, I was a pretty rough kid, and when I was like 10, 11 years old, I was getting into fights with grown men. I was never a bully type of kid, but I could handle myself. I was very game. I liked to have fun. I was silly. We were young kids. But if anybody picked on my friends, I'd be the first one there sorting it out. And I think that's where I learned my toughness from being a young kid. And a lot of my friends were quite a lot older than me. And I was in many, many street fights. I'd go to different towns and fight kids who were tough in their areas. And that's how it was when I was a kid back in the 80s. It was like you use your fists, and unfortunately nowadays it's a gun or a knife. But, I always fought people. There was always a reason behind it. It was never like a barbaric attempt to jump on somebody or beat somebody. It was always like if someone had touched my friend, or if someone had, stepped their authority on me or offered me on. So I was in many, many fights as a young kid. And I think ultimately we used to play rugby in the park, in the local park, in a bowling green. And the kids who I used to play with was a lot older than me. So I'm like 11, 12. These kids are 15, 16. So, they've gone through puberty and they're well grown. But I handled myself really well. But it was physical. We used to bash each other. And, like I said, I was just a rough and rugged kid. And I think it just nurtured me as a player. I learned how to be tough against these big kids playing in the bowling green, getting dumped in the gutters, so should I say? And like I say, I've just I wasn't shy of a fight as a young kid, and it probably got me in a lot of trouble as well. So I always even now I protect my friends. But now it's a bit different, I use all that energy for business, and for films, and, in a positive way, taking care of my partner and looking after my children.
For a lot of people that have retired from sports, getting over that retirement and finding a new focus or a new thing to do, a lot of athletes can't do that. In the United States, some will go into, broadcasting or color commentary, or maybe they'll get endorsements to promote products. But what was the culture like in England that did you have to move beyond rugby after retirement, or weren't there options that were parallel to the rugby career that could be explored?
Well, if you look at the Americans, for starters, they're earning a lot more money, a lot more salary than the English rugby league players, and it's a very small percentage of NFL players go on to do punditry, or they're on Sky, they're on ESPN, or there's only a handful of players, and there's thousands who retire. And I think in rugby league, there's nothing in place for when rugby league players retire, because if you look at rugby league is probably the best team sport in the world. I mean, there's hardly no stoppages. the game can flow for 20 minutes. You know, you've got guys doing 10, 15 tackles in 10 minutes. You know, you're running, you're tackling, sprinting. You know, you're using every aspect of your talent in rugby league. NFL, you're stopping and starting, you know, and in rugby league, you could be in game of play for 20, 25 minutes without stoppage. And I think, for me, I'd like to inspire these players, even any sports people or anybody who retires, because if you put all your eggs in one basket and your identity is of a sportsman, I mean, that's the wrong thing to do, man. You need to learn different creative talents. And that's exactly what I've done. You know, I have gone out there and I have, you know, I have tested the waters and I've pushed myself. I've traveled to America. I've traveled to London. You know, I've gone to auditions, 5-hour bus rides to London and 5-hour bus rides to back just to do a 5-minute audition and not get the part. And I've been doing that for years. Not so now because I'm getting breakthroughs, but, you know, I forced myself to find a new career because a lot of sports people have an identity crisis. When you retire, if you don't keep training, you don't keep taking care of yourself, you get into bad habits, you get around the wrong people, and then ultimately the wrong people will pull you down. Even though you won't see it, they'll be all like yes men and not really be honest with you. So I think it's really important that you really do plan out your future for when you retire. Now, I'll be really honest with you now. When I retired, I won a big court case against Huddersfield Giants. They tried sacking me for gross misconduct, which eventually I went to High Court and I won the case for unfair dismissal. And I won around £168,000. And I was at Castleford at the time. And to be honest with you, at the back end of my career, I didn't have the love for the game. I lost the love for the game because of everything what was going on with leaving Huddersfield sacking me. I lost my driving license at that same time. I went from £150,000 a year to zero. I wasn't seeing my children. I have 2 different mums, so you know it's always been difficult to see my kids. And there's a lot of stress and a lot of pressure on me as an athlete to be focused with all that going on around me. And I retired from the game prematurely. You know, my son Lucas, I was his idol, his hero, and I didn't even explain to my son that I'm going to stop playing. I'm going to retire. It's just that's where I was at my life at that time, and I just walked away. I just left it. I had some money. I just did the film with Mickey Rourke. Mickey Rourke. I think it was 2 weeks after the court case win. He came in and gave me a call and he says, "Kid, do you want to be a part of a movie?" Which was fantastic. And ultimately, that gave me a bit of a push to retire because I thought, well, I'm still in one piece. You know, I'm still in good shape, but the love for the game's not there. Maybe I can go into acting and give it a go. I know it'll take time. And what happened is, you know, when I retired, I just got undisciplined and, you know, I was going out a lot, partying, drinking, burning money. Like the money wasn't even a concern to me. I wasn't even interested in the money. You know, I just felt like I'd left something behind, what was part of my life, what saved me, which was rugby league, and just walked away from it. I wasn't happy how rugby league treated me at that time. And, you know, like I said, I had an identity crisis. I was going out a lot. I was drinking too much. I was burning money. Then I had a near fatal car crash. I crashed into a family. You know, it was an accident. But in 2014, from 2013 to 2015, 16, it was hell. It really was. I won't lie to you. You know, it was really tough. I can't explain it, but any professional athlete will tell you when they retire, it's like something dies, you know. And I think this is where athletes and sports people struggle, because what you've got to do is you've got to find another talent. You've got to be creative and find and throw yourself into another career. Because when you're playing sport all your life, if you haven't got like like what do you call it? Like, if you're not a joiner or if you haven't got a trade, you're going to really struggle because people will start treating you differently, looking at you differently. Even your own family will start looking at you differently. And my father actually came into my life at 16 years of age when everything was going really well. And he was there all the way through my career when it was all going well. But when I retired, he was out. He was gone. But to be honest with you, each to their own. The guy must have issues. He had issues with himself. My mum fought tooth and nail for me, and she, I'm her blood, and I love to make my mum proud, and I'm making her proud again now. But the process of retiring and then where I am now is quite remarkable because I kind of lost everything. I lost 2 houses. I lost my license. I got a 2-year ban for driving. And ultimately, I ended up back at my mum's in a small bedroom, homeless.
I think it's interesting that you have, it's part of your background, you work as a personal trainer or you did personal training. Was that part of the getting back to maybe being more self-disciplined by going and training yourself and training others?
Yeah, like I said, I've always been a natural helper of people, and I've always liked to help people. But when I lost everything, I was back at my mum's, and I was like, wow, this is showtime. Everything I've worked for has gone. Everything I've worked for through my career has gone. True people show the true colours, which is now it's a godsend because now I know. Now I'm back up there. Now I've worked my way back up there. That I know what to avoid. And I won't have anybody around me unless that person is, adding any value to my life, or someone who loves me, or is a true friend. And it just showed when you retire and you're not in the glitz and glamour, that people will really just around you because of what you did and not who you are. And I built myself back up. I thought, wow, I need to go into this acting role now. I've made mistakes along the way, but mistakes are lessons, like I said. But mistakes are lessons. But if you do it again, if you make the same mistake again, it's a choice. And I knew that I had to stop the drinking. I had to cut everybody off again. It's like I did a full 360. Where I started from a young kid, I ended up there. I was back there again. So I started building myself back up. I started going back to the gym. I got my focus back. I just rededicated myself. Started going down to London, doing auditions, jumping on a bus, going 5-6 hours there, 5-6 hours back. Then I actually got flown to New York to do some modeling. A company over there flew me to New York, which is quite a surreal experience. Me being a rugby player, asked to do a bit of modeling, were quite funny. But that was just the start of my rise back up. And from was I 34, 35, about 34 years of age when I started to get my act together. I would training 1 or 2 people at the gym, and a lady got in touch with me well, ultimately I didn't know, but she was paralyzed. So she reached out to me. She said, could you train me? I have a problem with my legs. And so she came to the gym. She jumped out the car. And I said, wow, what's happened to your legs? She went, I'm sorry, I'm paralyzed. I went, really? She went, yeah. I says, right, are you sure you're okay to train? She went, yeah, let's do it. And obviously this lady was Riona Kelly. And so from that day on, I started training Riona. And I learned the lady how to walk again. And, that was kind of my rise again. I was helping a lady who had suffered a spinal stroke, who couldn't walk. She was in an abusive relationship and she was left with 4 children. And I came into her life and, it just put a lot of perspective in my own life that I needed to get my act together.
Did you have this feeling that here's this woman trying and really doing something that most people would say was impossible, and that you kind of maybe thought to yourself that you had no excuse?
Absolutely.
You had to be better too, because
Yeah.
this woman's trying so much, and here you
Yeah.
are,
Yeah.
where you are.
Self-destructing. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he put everything in perspective. I do believe that God did put us together because, since we've been together, as life has been pretty amazing. Even though she suffered another stroke just before Christmas and she was laid in that bed, I said that this year will be the best year of his lives. But we did eventually get together. A story came out worldwide. People loved our story. We eventually produced a film together called Driving Force. I just, she was ready to accept my help, and I was ready to accept her. She gave me a few hard truths about what I was doing and the decisions I was making. And since meeting Riona, I've gone on to star in 6-7 films. I'm just about to launch my Rugby Blood franchise, which I created an idea for a comic and a film and a TV series. And it's quite incredible, Mark, where our discipline and sacrifice, which I forgot about when I retired. If you don't rededicate yourself, then you're going to struggle. And I think me staying in the gym all the time kind of saved my life. Anybody out there who's struggling, I think physical activity is probably the best mental depression reliever out there. Taking care of your body, taking care of yourself, your mind, body, and spirit. And I stopped drinking a couple of years ago because I knew when I got with Riona, her getting up, and she does get up and she does, she makes dinners and stuff, and because she's an incomplete, she can still walk on her legs, but she can't feel them. But it takes a hell of a lot of effort, and that to me is that's inspiring, and I think that's what just took me to another level completely. And now just about to launch Rugby Blood with Super League Europe. I'm basically making history once again. So coming up with the idea of David King. He's a rugby star, a bit like a Cristiano Ronaldo in the football world, and his wife ends up getting kidnapped in the film or comic by the Russians, and David King has to save his wife. He's a man's man. He loves his children, loves his kids, but he's a rugby superstar. But he does end up becoming like an MI5 agent. And, I came up with the idea to do a comic, but the comic was like an origin. So it was like a David King as a young man. But the actual young man in the comic is me.
Okay.
So it's me, and it's showing how I lived my life as a kid, being in trouble with the law, fighting for obstacles, and then eventually finding my way and becoming a superstar rugby player. But it just shows you me training in the cemetery and praying to God to help. And I think it's really important, this type of story for kids to see. It's a parallel to my life, that if you want something, it's not easy. It's going to take a lot of sacrifice. It's going to take a lot of knockbacks. But I'm testimony that you never give in. You never give in, man. If you want it that bad, you keep going. And me at 37 years old, right now, I'm the healthiest and fittest I've ever been. I've just signed a deal with Kilo Gear, which is a company in America who's endorsing me, making me the face of their brand globally, and they will endorse the Rugby Blood comic. And I've just signed a deal with a CBD company, which is cannabis oil, but it's all legal. And I've just developed my own brand, the Keith Mason Recovery Line. And this is all in space of 6 months. But, for the last 3 years, Mark, I've been up at 5 a.m. running, training. There's nothing been happening. And then all of a sudden, I'm just about to launch a franchise. I've just signed with a new agent. Conor McGregor's manager's looking at me. And, all from hard work, though. All from hard work and belief. And, I'm in a good position now. But, and like I said, I just want to inspire kids out there. I want to inspire sports people that you can push on. And not only that, Mark, I'm giving Super League stars opportunities in films. Now, I've give back to 2 stars, Jermaine McGilvray and Conrad Hurrell, and I've given them 2 parts in a movie, in a film. I'm giving back. I'm helping charities. I'm helping young kids. I've also got 5 players in the comic, the 5 superstars of the game in the comic as characters. So, like I say, I'm paying it forward, man. I'm giving back to rugby league. And the reason why I called it Rugby Blood, because rugby's in my blood. And to go back to rugby league in this kind of way, organically, is to say thank you to rugby league. But not only that, launch a franchise. And this could be a legacy changer for myself, as well as going into films. This is like my Rocky. Like Sylvester Stallone had Rocky, well, I've got Rugby Blood. So, I'm pretty proud of where we're at. And we're looking at launching the comic in Anfield at Liverpool at the stadium for the Magic Weekend, where all 6 teams play over the 2 days. And we will sell the 3,000 copies over the 2 days. And we will have a media launch on the Friday, the 24th of May.
So interesting, though, that you came back to rugby, and you said in a different way. That's, that's taking an experience and just turning it into something different. But, you've talked a lot about in your motivational speeches and things like that. You've talked a lot about failure and moving forward. Will that message be infused into the Rugby Blood book?
Yes, absolutely. There's a few quotes in there. No sacrifice, no glory, which is a quote that I live by. If you want to achieve anything, there has to be great sacrifice. There has to be great sacrifice. But at the other end of that, there's a lot of happiness and I think in life that we should learn kids how to do hard things at an early age, because now with the mental health and stuff like that going on through the schools, really we should be learning kids how to mentally deal with things. I don't know if you agree with that, but I believe we should, because when kids grow up and if they have not been nurtured right, and I think this is why there's a problem now, that kids go out and they end up shooting people, killing people, or living a life of crime. For me, if I'm the best version of myself and I do the best I can be, and I am then living a truly purposeful life, because I think that you've got to pass it down. For me and my story, if I can inspire the next generation to do great, and even though all the knockbacks and all the failures that I've been through, and even now doing something that no one's ever done before from rugby league, and giving back and being able to give relevant superstars of the game now parts in films and stuff. For me, that's just a gimme for me. I just love that. If I can be in a position to help somebody else, I will help somebody else. But I think, like myself, I do get many messages and people saying that I inspire them and stuff. And, how I help my missus walk again, Riona. But she inspires me as well, and she's my biggest fan. And she believes in me. I've got a group of people around me now, which when I retired, I didn't have that support system. I was single. I lived on my own. I lived in a big house, nice car, and then I just kind of, I just crumbled. But to come back from that, that's my biggest comeback. I think that will be my greatest comeback. It's testimony that you can come back from anything, from losing houses, from being depressed. I went through a state of depression, drinking all the time, trying to block stuff out, and to be where I am now, sober, loving life, working as hard as I've ever worked before, just about to launch and get endorsed by the Super League Europe is absolutely massive, Mark. And I think this is just a start of something really, really special. I will be able to go out with Rugby Blood. I will be able to reach out to many more people with my story, just to help people, just to say, look, never give up.
Well, it's quite an achievement. Congratulations on the comic that's soon to be launched. It sounds like it's going to lead to a lot of other good things.
No, thanks, mate. It has been a lot of hard work, but I'm a guy who just gets after it. I made the phone calls. I reached out to Rob Elston, who's the CEO of Super League, Rob Elston was at Everton for 10 years. So Everton was one of the biggest football clubs in England. It's come from a multi-billion-dollar organisation to another big organisation in Super League. And what I said to Rob Elston when I met him with my lawyer, Richard Kramer, I sat down with him and I said, listen, this is the first ever Rugby League comic done. I had to sell it to him. And I said that this will be sold worldwide. And there's 5 players in the comic as characters from Super League. Now, what I can bring to Super League as a marketing tool is that this comic could be opened up by thousands of kids in China, Malaysia, America, Canada, places where Super League would never reach. But that's what I'm bringing to you, Rob. And also the story's unique. We've done a film. I've written a film, a screenplay, which Pinewood Studios took a look at the screenplay and they liked the idea. Now, I know that a film could make 3 or 4 years before it's being made. So why not do a bit of research, which I did, and let's do a comic. Let's do a before the film. Let's do an Origins comic. And I knew that there'd never been a Rugby League comic done before. So when I sat down with Rob Elston and then I sat down with Lee Hicken, who was the creative director, Lee Hicken looked at the idea and thought, this is brilliant. This is fantastic. We should aim to make a Netflix series of an anime series of David King. So imagine me as a comic character on the Netflix screen. That would be an achievement, but that's in the works, Mark. So we're looking at going to Netflix and, with Super League being on board with me and supporting me and endorsing me, it is a big move. I'll give myself a big pat on the back. But having an organisation, support me like that, because I was a product of Super League. They don't really know about when I retired and I lost my houses and I became homeless and I became bankrupt. All these things they don't know about. But that story will come out over time, and I think it's even more incredible that I've gone on and done something like this and then the other things I'm doing from that situation I was in up to now.
I agree. Congratulations and continued success.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Man, it's been a journey, but I just want the best for my children. I want to leave a legacy for them, and I'm enjoying the grind, man. I'm learning new things. The business side of things. I am like a businessman now. I'm ringing the people up. They've got people ringing me from all over the world wanting to endorse me and sponsor me, and I've met so many incredible people over the last 12, 18 months. Even on LinkedIn, you reached out to me and I saw, you're a very decent guy. It's very unique when, somebody wants to sit down and listen to your story. But, it's not like I've got a boring story. I think my story can help many, many people.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks for taking the time.
Hey, no worries, Mark.
Okay.
Metro30 is produced in collaboration with the Youngstown Radio Reading Service. Visit metromonthly.net for news, features, and the Valley's most complete calendar of events. And be sure to subscribe to the Metro30 podcast.
You've got 30 seconds on this phone line. First, I need the name, the number, and the address.
You just heard a preview clip from The Burning. Keith is going to tell us a little bit more about this upcoming project.
I've been filming this summer on a feature film called The Burning. It's about a guy called Baldwin Crest. He turns a vigilante. I guess it's a bit like Death Wish. You've seen Charles Bronson's Death Wish, a bit like an English version. We've been filming that now the last couple of months, probably halfway through the project now. And it's actually my first lead in a film. So I'm really excited about it. I've been doing quite a few other projects as well, but this one is my first lead in an actual film since my debut from Skin Traffic with Mickey Rourke and Eric Roberts back in 2013. We have to wait, and then we go to distributors and see if we can get it sold worldwide.